taking time out of your very busy lives to be here. You could be anywhere doing anything, and you chose to be here learning about how to protect our children, our most precious commodities, our most precious treasures. And for that, we so appreciate you. I'm going to do some quick introductions, and then we're going to dive right in. I am Cheryl Todd. I am the president and CEO of the AzCDL Foundation, and it is our mission to bring F.A.S.T.E.R Saves Lives to the state of Arizona. We have already held our first inaugural class back in March, and we have many more coming up soon on the calendar. You can check out FASTERSavesLives.org, and you can see upcoming schedule for classes that we have happening. And in way of introductions, our Vice President, Mr. David Laird, and he is the master of all things electronic, so the reason you can see us tonight is through his skills, as he's probably answering questions as we speak. Look up and say hello.
Hey everybody, Dave Laird here. I'm the owner of Dynamic Combative Solutions. I'm going to be one of the trainers that's working with F.A.S.T.E.R out of Ohio. We've already put on one class this year. Back in February, we had 20 students in that class, and we're looking forward to working with more schools and more churches this year. And hopefully we'll be able to answer all your questions about this program. It's been around a long time. This is something that we sought out, both Dave Kopp, who is the president of the Arizona Citizens Defense League, and myself. It's something that we've worked a really long time to build this relationship, to bring a program that already exists, that's already been vetted, that's been around a long time, here to Arizona, where I think it'll do a lot of good. So.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dave. And on this side of me, we have our board member, Mark Zilinskas. Mark is an educator, and he can speak to this program through that lens and that experience. Mark, introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name's Mark Zilinskas. I've been a high school teacher for over 30 years. I retired just in 2020 from Pennsylvania. Currently teaching part-time at Grand Canyon University and doing some online instruction for Southern New Hampshire University. This has been something, or a program I've been involved with ever since it started back in 2013. I've done a lot of volunteer work, and what I'm going to speak about, I think, in a little bit later is going to be just what's going on in schools right now, what's going on inside of schools, what are schools doing, and what they're lacking to give solutions to this problem that we're dealing with more and more as time goes on. So look forward to talking to you and answering some questions later.
Absolutely. And Mike Infanzon's making his way to the front here, so he can say a couple of words. Mike is our advisor, one of our many trusted and awesome advisors, and legislation is kind of his key area. So Mike, introduce yourself and tell us all the hats you wear. Oh, sorry. I have a microphone.
There you go.
My name is Mike Infanzon. I am the managing partner for Epic Policy Group. I'm a lobbyist. The Arizona Citizens Defense League is one of my clients. So with Dave Kopp, the president and lead lobbyist for AzCDL, I assist AzCDL in lobbying. I'm also the lobbyist for the Arizona Firearms Industry Trade Association as well, and a bunch of other clients too. So I'm a political antagonist.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. All right. Well, I hope that since I was hogging the microphone, that the other gentlemen were able to be heard. If you have any questions about who was speaking to you, David Laird is manning the keyboard and taking any and all questions. We are on Zoom or just Facebook?
Facebook.
Facebook Live. All right. Very good. All right. So our purpose for being here is it just makes sense. F.A.S.T.E.R saves lives. If you are in an emergency situation, what is your enemy? Your enemy is time, and so is it your friend. The faster, the sooner, the closer someone can be to initiate help, that is how lives are saved. And F.A.S.T.E.R, everyone has a handout in front of you. It is an acronym. It stands for Faculty Administration Safety Training Emergency Response. So that just kind of says it. And what we saw in Uvalde, Texas, that tells us right there, we must do better for our schools and our children. The plan for many organizations, churches, schools, businesses even, is, well, we'll pray it doesn't happen, and then we'll call 911 if it does. Well, the school in Texas, in Uvalde, Texas, they did just that. And help arrived in 4 minutes. And then help stood outside of a pane of glass for we don't know how long, right? Because the story just keeps unfolding. Now this is not to Monday morning quarterback and bag on officers at all. This is to say we have witnessed what doesn't go well, and we know a better way. So F.A.S.T.E.R Saves Lives. It began in Ohio 10 years ago. It is one of the best kept secrets out there. It's been quietly saving lives for 10 years, and you haven't heard of it before probably. And the reason I think is because if there had ever been even a tiny negligent situation that was caused by the armed staff and teachers, clergy, oh, you'd have heard about it. You'd have heard about it, right? The fact that you haven't heard about it tells you these are very highly trained members of a team. It is a strictly volunteer situation, and the level of training is of the utmost. I've gone through it myself. I've gone through level 1 and 2. David Laird's gone through level 1 and 2. Level 1 and 2, Mark. So all I can tell you is it is life-changing. So F.A.S.T.E.R has an armed component, right? It has an unarmed component where it's a heightened awareness, it's a heightened level of communication among your school staff or your clergy staff, a heightened level of communication with your local law enforcement, and then there is the medical component. And that's the piece that is such an extra no-brainer. I don't know how anybody could possibly, with a straight face, say, no, we don't want to learn how to help people who are bleeding and hurt, right? No thanks, we're good. And every person who goes through the F.A.S.T.E.R Saves Lives training gets the training on how to use the components in a kit like this, and then gets a kit like this. It has tourniquets, it has chest seals. We're not doing surgery. We're just trying to keep people alive because the EMTs cannot come on the scene of an emergency until it's secure, right? And so one of the things that happened in Texas, supposedly, again, everything feels like hearsay there, that the chief of police apparently said, well, there's no one left alive inside, so we're good, right? And I'm thinking, how could he possibly know that? I mean, more people die from, bleeding to death, from what I understand in these situations, than anything else. And if somebody was on scene with just a simple tourniquet, or understood how to use a cord, or a t-shirt, or any other improvised thing as a chest seal or a tourniquet, I think we would have saved some lives, and we wouldn't have lost as many of our babies that day. So it is a very well-crafted and well-thought-out program, and I'm excited to be able to talk to you about it tonight. So teachers and parents are seeking guidance from us. We are the people who train in this.
Can you tell Miriam that you're good to
Dave is a professional firearms trainer. So do we ask him, hey, how do we secure our schools better? Or do we ask the politicians who just want to pile some more laws on? I think we've been going about this in the wrong way for too long. People are seeking guidance from us. We have the answers. It's time we start speaking up and talking to our teacher unions, talking to our districts, because right now, and Michael can speak more to this later, here in the state of Arizona, there is no law preventing every school from enacting this, even the armed component. It's the districts that would say, oh, no thanks, we're good, we don't need that. So we need to be talking to those at the district level and helping them to understand why this is so valuable and why it works. All right, so this says it here, when violence strikes, lives are on the line and every second matters. They talk about a stopwatch of death. It's a horrible phrase, but it's the truth. As soon as that first round comes out of the murderer's gun, or the first strike from the murderer's knife, it's all about time. And having people with the skills and the training to take care of it. We have these gun-free zones out there, right, for however many years now. Is this working?
No, it never will.
Right? Are they really gun-free zones? Maybe until a murderer shows up, and then suddenly, guess what?
Stop terrifying.
Yeah, they're not a gun-free zone anymore. All right, so this is a tough audio. I know those of us in the room have a little bit of dinner. It's not gory or anything, but it's emotionally tough. And those of you watching online, I'd just like to give you a little forewarning. I think it's 4 minutes long, but it's a 911 call. And it is the desperation of adults who love this child, want so much to help this child, and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to help them. They've called 911. They're on 911 the whole time. That's why we have the audio. And it doesn't end well for the little boy. So I'm just going to let you hear this for a moment.
We have a shooting at Townville Elementary. A little boy has been shot, and we have a man outside of our building who is the shooter, and his truck is still in our back playground. The shooter is walking around, and our little boy is downstairs. We've got the school in lockdown, and we are doing the defibrillator, and he's bleeding horribly. We're doing the defibrillator right now. Come on, baby.
Ma'am, where's he been shot at?
It looks like in his leg. We have somebody with a lamp holding his leg from bleeding.
Is he conscious? Is he breathing?
He's going in and out of consciousness. Still outside.
Stay on the phone, ma'am. Stay on the phone. They're coming as quickly as they can. Are you with? Yes, we've got an ambulance on the way. Are you with the child?
The child just blinked, but his lips. Okay, his lips are turning blue. His eyes are, but he's moving. He's moving his arm. Yes, we need EMS badly. We really need an ambulance.
They're coming, ma'am. They're coming as quickly as they can. Ma'am, somebody's in there doing CPR on the child.
One is doing CPR right now.
And you've got something control with the police.
Somebody is next door that has been hit in the foot.
You got another person that's been hit.
We have another first grade child who has been hit in the foot. We're finding out who it is.
Is that a child or an adult?
It's a child. It's another child that's been hit in the foot. He moved his leg on his own.
Is he conscious, ma'am?
He's breathing.
So we've got a person shot in the leg, the foot, and one in the shoulder. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Center 609 you, honey. They're coming as quickly as they can, okay? I got everybody on the way to you, okay? We're trying to get somebody there as quickly as we can, okay?
And this is our attorney. We do have deputies on the way as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
We're in the
Okay. The baby that's inside is in the lower level of the school in the hallway. Oh, God. Okay, and that's the only child that you know that's been hit, correct? Okay, I promise you they're coming as quickly as they can, okay? I'm right here with you, okay? Okay.
That's hard. Little boy's 6 years old. A leg wound. He died from a leg wound. They're doing what they know how to do. I'm not clear on the IED. Like, I don't know if they thought they needed to shock his heart and they're pumping, which is going to pump blood out. I'm not a medical professional, but a tourniquet would have saved that little boy and he'd have been here today. F.A.S.T.E.R saved lives, would have saved him. So, we have to do better. I personally have a grown daughter, but she has given my husband and I, Danny here in the front is my husband, two precious littles. We have a 3-year-old little girl and an 8-year-old little girl, and they attend 2 different schools, and their year had ended when Uvalde happened, and I was so thankful that it was one less thing for me to be afraid about. But, you know, it could happen anywhere. It could happen at church, it could happen at the grocery store. And so when you take the F.A.S.T.E.R Saves Lives program, even if your school, even if your district won't allow you, my least favorite word in English language, right? Won't allow you to use the armed portion, that goes with you everywhere you go. Your home is safer, right? Your grocery store is now safer because you're there, right? You've got this training. So I say get the training, use the pieces that you're allowed to use at school, and press your district to be able to be allowed to use all of the training. So as we go on, you're going to hear from the trainer's perspective, the educator's perspective, the legislator's perspective. But I just want to run through these slides real quick. I mentioned the stopwatch of death. Every minute the violence continues. You see on average 5 to 7 additional dead or injured. And that's the thing is, so if we don't include the armed portion and we're patching up holes, there's still somebody out there making more holes. So why don't we eliminate the threat first, right? Just makes sense to me. So again, the acronym, Faculty Administrator, Safety Training, and Emergency Response. Stop the killing, how about that? There's a novel approach. Stop the dying. Yes, please. That little 6-year-old boy, all those babies in that classroom in Uvalde. And then transfer patients. Patients we're going to transfer, not victims. Right? We're going to keep them alive so when they go to the hospital, they have a chance to be treated. So some people say, oh my goodness, where's my pearls? Let me clutch them. We're talking about arming teachers. Well, no, we're really not talking about arming teachers. First of all, it's more than just teachers. It is, well done, dude.
That needs to be on the video.
It is, it's the lady in the lunch line, right? It's the coach. It's, all manner of people on campus. And it's people like me who I'm trained and I'm going to carry no matter what my job is, right? So basically, if I were a teacher, I'm a business person, but if I were a teacher, you're trying to disarm me. You're asking me to leave the life-saving portion of my wardrobe at home. right? So they have got us all, doing the head roll like, oh, arming teachers, that's bad, right? Ooh. No, let's not disarm people who are already trained, moral, concerned, are gonna stand in front of bullets. We see it all the time. Teachers stand in front of bullets because that's all that we've allowed them to do. Let's give them a better chance. So your staff are already willing to sacrifice for our kids. Some names of some heroes there. And this one here. Guns are in your parking lot. Why are they in your parking lot? Anyone?
Stupid ass laws.
Yes.
You ask.
Stupid laws. Yes, because I want to be protected from my doorway to as far as I can be, right? Because bad guys, they look for patterns, right? They would look for that pattern that, oh, this lady, maybe a single mom, maybe just a single person, she teaches. So the whole time from her door to the door of the school and all day long, she's not armed. She can't protect herself. So that's why the guns are in your parking lot. They're locked up in a person's car, which the other bad guys love, right? Because they're probably going to break into the cars. Anyway, so let's get these people trained, get the guns safely, securely inside. I have a friend who, she loves the whole idea, but she's having trouble thinking about, you're a kindergarten teacher, or you got littles, and how are you going to have a firearm on you, and the kids might grab it, or whatever. And I say to her, that is a reasonable concern. That is a reasonable thing to think about. But here's the deal. People all across this nation have taken F.A.S.T.E.R Saves Lives, and they're doing it, right? There are ways to properly conceal carry, and I just recently heard about a place in Texas, I believe it was, where they have like 3 safes on campus, something like that, like designated places where they have their firearms, not personally carrying, people carrying them. And then there are biometric safes and that sort of thing. And I feel like, okay, but if the danger is happening right here, and I gotta go down that hallway and through that room, and it's gotta be my thumb, I can't send help to do it for me if I'm injured already. Okay, if that's what your school is, if that's what you're comfortable with, it's better than nothing. But this is the whole package, so that's why we are for F.A.S.T.E.R Saves Lives. And why F.A.S.T.E.R Saves Lives? Where did it come from? This was not just like thrown together on a weekend, right? This is very thoughtful, very focused, very serious training put together by people who know what they're talking about. As I just said, are we going to ask a professional trainer? Are we going to ask somebody who's been in the National Safety...
National Association for School Resource Officers.
School Resource Officer. I always do RSO, Range Safety Officer, and SRO. They get confused in my mind. School Resource Officer for 10 years, 30 years. He was law enforcement, right? Worked with SWAT. I mean, these people know what they're doing. Why don't we ask them? Why don't we use that training that they devised? No. Let's ask, pick your favorite legislator on Capitol Hill. Let's ask them. How are you going to save our children? Here's more laws for you. It's not even laughable because it's insulting. We're allowing our children to live in a state of potential danger that could be mitigated, could be lessened. I mean, life is dangerous, right? Liberty is dangerous. But we can mitigate that a lot when we are intelligent and we go through our landscape, learning from our past. It is the most complete and experienced program out there. Some people say, well, there's Alice, the Alice program. So that one, again, if it's all your school's going to allow you, okay, it's something. But it's basically cause a ruckus, throw books, throw chairs, that kind of thing to try to confound your murderer who has a gun. Fine, but maybe look at this, you know, as well. They've trained over 3,000 staff from over 300 districts in 22 states, quietly, safely, right? Because you've never heard of it. Multiple lives have been saved. They've never, as far as I know, as I have heard, and I stay on top of these things, there has not been a mass shooting on any of these campuses because of the heightened awareness and the heightened training, right? I'm liking these schools that are posting signs up that say, you know, we do have teachers with guns here. So this isn't the place to bring your nonsense. And the bad guys, it is well documented, well studied and documented. They don't just willy-nilly randomly walk into a place. They go to a place with, how old were these kids in Uvalde? 6, 8, 10? They go where they know their victim is defenseless. Purposely. It's not a mistake. It's not like, oh, a mystery. How are we going to solve this problem? Millions of man-days of staff carrying multiple-year curriculums for all school personnel. So I participated in the level 1 and 2, haven't had the level 3 yet, but the trauma medicine is a portion of each level of FA.S.T.E.R. And these are a couple of you know, people saying, this is why it makes sense. We've taken the training. Some schools have said, you know, well, we will use the unarmed and the medical. We're not into the armed thing, whatever. The liability. Well, you want liability or you want dead kids, right? And then they have an incident that scares them enough that then they go, okay, let's come back. Let's retake that armed section and start using that on campus. And this is really, I do want to take questions. And if you have a burning question, I will take it now. But I kind of want to hand it off to the educator and let him speak on this. So does anybody have like something they wanted to weigh in or ask a question? No? Good? All right. And are there any questions online? Not yet. All right. I'm being so thorough that there's no questions. Right? High five me. All right, Mark.
I'll just clip this here.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to touch on a couple of things maybe that Cheryl did, but again, just like I said in the beginning, I want to give you kind of a perspective of somebody who's going to be there when something like this happens, and what I see now that schools are doing at this particular time. Number one, you see this we're all glued to the news and Twitter and social media. Number one, we need to harden our schools. Okay, I think that's a great idea, and there's lots of ways to do that. But really, I've been in a school that's been hardened, that has the doors locked and the secretary manning the door while she's typing letters and doing a million other things that she has to do. And somebody comes up to the door and buzzes in and says they're here for so-and-so, and they just let them in. Are we really ready to have our schools be set up like an airport? Because if we want to harden them, that's what it's going to look like, and that's what it's going to take. I don't think we can do that. I don't think we have the resources to do that. I don't think we have the willingness to do that. Are there some reasonable steps we can take? Yes, we can, all right? But we can't rely 100% on that. Another thing, you say, mental health. We've got to get counselors involved in all that. Great idea. Excellent idea. And there's lots of good programs. I know my school in Pennsylvania had outreaches for students who were, experiencing difficulties and maybe identified. But are we really ready to arrest people for crimes before they commit them? Are we ready to force somebody to go to counseling against their will. And I don't think we are. And again, I don't think we can count on that. Can we have that available as an option? And will it make a difference? Probably already has. But we can't rely on that. Another thing, run, hide, fight. Cheryl touched on the ALICE program. It's an acronym: alert, lockdown, inform, counter, evacuate. It basically boils down to run, hide, fight. Again, another good idea. All right, I just listened to one of the, watched one of the security videos from Uvalde today. First thing the teacher did when they started hearing shots outside, everybody get in a room, and a lot of people did. But we can't rely on students, especially the little ones, to be able to follow those types of instructions, because in order to effectively have a run, hide, fight, you've got to practice it and practice it often. And you've got to tell them and explain to them why they're doing what they're doing. And it's still not going to work because people aren't ready to commit to that and do a drill once a week or twice a week. It just, should we do it? Yeah, we should be aware of it and have ways of doing that and getting kids out of harm's way if something like that happens, but we can't rely on it. The Stop the Bleed. Again, another good idea, actually part of the FA.S.T.E.R program. Cheryl touched on this already. If it's a type of injury that somebody can survive after they get shot, they can die as little as 90 seconds, lose enough blood, bleed out, and go into hypertensive shock in about 90 seconds. We can't rely on waiting 10 to 15 minutes for the police to get there and figure out what's going on and get in there and then start treating people. By then it's going to be too late. So should we be doing all these things? Yes, we should. Okay? But the last thing, we can't count on the police getting there in time. If you just do the math, figure out what's going on, make the 911 call. Call, the 911 operator calls the dispatcher. Dispatcher explains what's going on to the police officers. Police officers have to get there. They arrive. They have to figure out what's going on. A lot of times they don't have all the information. They don't have accurate information. And we get what we got in Uvalde. My point is this. When I was in my high school, I had my kids go through drill, and I actually did it more often than what we did as a school, I guess as a school-wide drill. I actually got criticized for doing that by some parents because I was scaring the kids. But my plan was I had the kids either get prepared in the room, locked down, I had them flip the desks over, create a space that was safe for them in terms of any type of bullets coming through the wall. I actually tested the desks that were in my room. I went out to the storage barn in our school district and got 2 old desks and tested it with different types of ammunition. And I assured them that if they were able to get behind those desks, all right, there's no way something could come through the wall. They also secured the door. Even if the lock failed, there was a bookcase there, had a chain around it. They were going to be secure in the room. I gave them one command: barricade. They all knew what to do. I didn't help them, and I'll tell you why in a second. The second option was if I would go over the doorway, and there was nothing I could see or hear at that point, and it was safe to get out, I would have them evacuate. There were 3 exit doors: straight, right, left. I would say evacuate right, evacuate left. They would do that. We practiced it. I timed them. They were able to do either one of those tasks in less than a minute. What was I going to do? I sat there and watched them and timed them because I said, I probably won't be with you. All right? But one of the first things I say, and I forgot to mention this, every year, the first day of school, when I talk to the students, since Sandy Hook was, when I see you guys, when I look at you, I see my kids. And I would do anything to protect my kids. And that means I would do anything to protect you. I had a backpack. It was full of medical supplies. And I had a claw hammer. Because we didn't have the FA.S.T.E.R program in my school district. And that was the decision that I made ahead of time. And I am nobody special. I am nobody special. I am just a teacher, a typical teacher that loves their kids. and it's not for everybody, but there's teachers, administrators, janitors, principals, coaches in those buildings that made the same decision that I made. And that was, I wasn't going to sit behind the door with my kids and listen to other kids that I know and love or my colleagues be murdered while I sat behind that door. Or I was not going to run out of the building with my kids and leave behind people I loved and cared about. We, meaning nobody special like me, everyday people, the people in those buildings, can do something better than any Navy SEAL, SWAT, most highly trained, high-speed person on the face of the planet. And that is, they can be there. We're the ones that are there. And this program will prepare them to do the most important thing that needs to be done at that instant, and that is that killing has to stop as soon as possible, as soon as humanly possible. I can tell you that I took the level 1 class twice. I took the level 2 class. We do scenarios. David will probably talk about this a little bit more when he talks about the training. Every single scenario that teachers were in, they encountered and stopped the killing in less than a minute. If they're in the vicinity, less than a minute. People like me, people like, I mean, you don't have to be 6 foot, I'm 6'4", 220. You don't have to be that. You can be 5'2", 90 pounds. But have the tools and training to make the difference to protect the people that we love. That's what this program is about. I think what we need to do, and more people as this program gains more and more exposure, the key to it is going to be people like you making the difference. That not just ask their school districts, but insist that they start taking the appropriate measures to protect these kids. Because there's people that are willing to do it, they're going to do it, so let's make them, be in a situation where they can be successful. So, I don't know if you have any questions for me specifically. I'll be around. If anybody have anything right now? Okay, if you do, I'd be more than happy to. And one of the things that I do, if you do have a school district that you're in, I would be more than happy to travel to go into your district and talk to your administrators and school board members. Just let me know. Thanks.
Thank you. Nicely done, Mark. I appreciate that. Some people think that what we're talking about is, lining up, going into a school, lining up a bunch of teachers and going, here's your handgun, here's your magazine, here's some bullets, right? That is not what we're talking about. We are talking about a purely volunteer situation. And then, just because you volunteered doesn't mean that you're going to get to be one of these certified teachers, right? We don't want somebody who's just maybe a little too eager, right? Well, through the training, you are also being vetted for your mindset and your heart set. And like I said, I've taken the training, I've witnessed the training when we had it here in March, and there are people that they want to, they really want to, but they just don't have the skills. Whether it's an emotional skill, whether it's a physical skill of firearms proficiency. And so by the time you are certified, you actually have, and Dave will touch on this, the bar is higher for you than it is even for law enforcement. So when people start getting nervous about, law enforcement's got all this training, what do you think Faster Saves Lives is? It's training. All right. Next up, we have David Laird. He is a professional trainer. He's gone through level 1 and level 2 multiple times now here in Arizona and Ohio. And he's going to talk to us about that part of it. Thank you, sir.
Picks up for us. All right, cool. All right, how's everybody doing?
Great.
Awesome. Eat amongst yourselves. All right, so who's David Laird? Who's this guy? I've been in the Valley pretty much all my life. I was born in Texas, raised in Western Pennsylvania on a farm. Moved here when I was 9. and I've lived here in Arizona ever since. I'm 10th generation military. I have 7 kids, 5 boys, 2 girls, 3 in the military, all Army, 2 in college, 1 that, you know, is a black sheep, don't know what he's up to. I've got 2 grandkids. So when I joined the military, I served 4 years in the 82nd Airborne Division. When I got out, I volunteered with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Department for 4 years. I served 2 years overseas as a civilian contractor in Baghdad, a little west of Baghdad, Mosul, Iraq. Since I've been home, I am still doing contract security here locally in the state of Arizona. Started my own business in 2019. I've been a professional firearms instructor since 2006. I'm an NRA certified training counselor, so I train certified instructors. There's many who are sitting in this room with us tonight who are actually certified instructors by me or have done training with me. And so feel free to talk amongst yourselves and ask them about who they is. I do training because I enjoy training. I teach people because I enjoy helping folks overcome the challenges that they face that require them to want to pursue the training. I've taught the blind, I've taught the handicapped, I've taught the hearing impaired, I've taught people bound to wheelchairs, one arms, one legs, etc. And so that to me is the most rewarding thing, to find a way for those folks to have another option in self-defense. Because we're not all physically capable. I know there's a lot of folks out there that think, well, I would just manhandle. And that's awesome, and you've chosen to go in that direction. There's people here in this room who I already know. I don't have to convince you why it's important to have this training. You basically just want to find out more about it, okay? You've already made the decision. You've already decided you're going to do it. I know that there's a lot of schools in the valley that already have armed staff. I've trained a lot of church security since I returned from Iraq in 2008. All the mega campuses and stuff, I go to a lot of their meetings and things like that, so I'm very familiar with the directors of security for a lot of these groups. And you haven't heard about F.A.S.T.E.R, just like you haven't heard about a lot of these churches or these schools that carry already here in the state, because everybody treats it very hush-hush. It's important that this program still remains a secret, okay? And that's something that you're trusting us and you're trusting F.A.S.T.E.R to keep a secret for you. So what I will tell you is, having gone through this program several times, everyone's names, information, the school that you work for, the church you work for, all that stuff is kept confidential. There's no photography, there's no video, not because we're worried about anybody stealing your training. This stuff is readily available. It's about keeping it a secret to everybody. I got to train alongside school administrators, principals, the nurses, the guys that work on campus that are just the, what do we call them, maintenance workers. There was a teacher who I met who actually has kids that are in the 5, 7, 10 age bracket that he's been carrying to school for the better part of 5 years. They still don't even know he owns a gun. He conceals carries to school, takes them to school, takes them home from school, and they have no idea that Dad carries while he was at school. He's found his own unique way to conceal carry while he's the maintenance guy rolling around the floor, getting into air ducts with his concealed firearm, okay, because he's made that decision. I've met a school principal who only carries when he's at school. He was in the level 2 program. It was the second time going through, and I asked him, I said, do you know, being in level 2, and I've seen you shoot today, like, do you carry now? Because he said, I'm adamantly opposed to firearms. I don't think that's necessary to solve problems. And I said, well, that's really interesting because this is your second time through level 2, and you shoot really good. Like, I'm enjoying watching you shoot. So do you carry when you go out at night with your family? He's like, no. There's other ways to handle it. I don't feel it's necessary. Which was shocking to me. And of course, I want to ask him more questions and maybe even pester him, but I didn't want to deter him from continuing to take the class. Maybe he'll change his mind later on. But folks, I run into people all the time that sort of think that arming teachers is so taboo. Like, we can't expect teachers to do this. This is up here. You know, this is for law enforcement, military, etc. And yet we all know somebody who works at a school that we go shooting with on Friday, that we go shooting with on Saturday, we go hunting with, that we know, and maybe even kind of suspect. I don't know, Daniel. Like, if there's a room I'm going to run to, it's going to be yours. Because if nothing else, I know you can operate a chair like a whiz, right? So the truth of the matter is, America has been a constitutional country for a long time. It's always been allowed. The interesting thing is concealed carry never even became a thing. It's considered that you were an outlaw if you concealed carry. Okay, so in '91 when they passed the federal ban stating you can't carry on school campus unless you had an approved CCW from your state, and your state allowed it, which our state allows it, provided the school allows it. So it's an individual school decision. So now the CCW was necessary. So in the Ohio program, I went there, I trained alongside of them, because like many of you, when I heard about it, I was like, hey, this is neat. But I don't just recommend a program to friends and family until I've been through it. I want to see what they're actually capable of. And so I had the opportunity to train with two of the companies that they have doing it. One's TDI, Tactical Defense Institute, which is basically gun sight in Ohio. And Apex Tactical, run by Andrew now, who is currently serving law enforcement and has had an extensive background in medical training as well. So I went through level 1 with Andrew, and I got to see basically a really strong fundamental class that incorporated TCCC medicine, which is Tactical Combat Casualty Care, and live scenarios on the third day. So level 1, you can expect that you're going to get a lot of fundamental training on day 1, even more fundamental training on day 2, incorporating in the downtime, like when you're eating meals or in between reloading magazines, you're going to be learning stop the bleed information, how to apply tourniquets, and all that sort of stuff. Day 3 is really neat because you actually go to a school or a church where we put on live scenarios. So everything gets left in the car, you come in, everybody gets scanned and checked, make sure you don't have anything that can scratch or poke anybody. And then we work into doing actual live scenarios.
More into the light. Just moving into the
Can you
light.
see that?
No, more over here.
More over here. That's blending. I'm being directed by
You're like a disembodied voice down here.
All right, so the live scenario training was really awesome. The way they broke the groups up was really awesome. The scenarios that they created I thought were really awesome. And obviously they were able to get through a lot of scenarios. Anybody here who's ever done scenario training knows that it's really difficult to get a large group through scenarios quickly. So one of the most impressive things was, I want to say, we ran through about 10 scenarios. We broke the group of 20 up into 2 groups of 10, and they just ran through 3 scenarios in each group, and then they switched. And then they went through those 3 to 4 more scenarios in the opposite group. So I was really impressed with the amount of training that they got, and as you know, if you've never been through a scenario before, everybody fumbles pretty hard in the first one, okay? And then afterwards, we get together collectively as a group and we review and discuss, all right, here's all the things you did well, here's all the things you need to work on. You know, did you do this? Did you secure the weapon? Did you call 911? Did you incorporate using the students, you know, as assets and all this sort of stuff? And then with that mindset, as each scenario came through, people got stronger and stronger. And as you know, I've trained a lot of professionals. You get the big burly guy in the room and he fumbles everything, right? And you're like, wow, I really expected more out of him. And then you get the little lightweight princess that had the squeaky voice through class, all of a sudden come out and be like, freeze! Drop the gun! You're like, holy cow, Betty, go! Where'd that come from? Oh, well, I just, you know, I want to make sure. And I was like, holy cow. So that's a lot of fun for a trainer, to see people just all of a sudden release that shell, build that confidence, and just perform better and better and better. Level 2 is 3 days pretty much at TDI, and I'm tending to want to keep it that way. There's a chance we might run some at gunsight. We have a good working relationship with gunsight. But it is all shoot house. So the first half of the day is live fire shooting. The second half of the day of day 1 is basically dry fire shoot house, where you're using SIR pistols. Second day, we go right into airsoft, basically in the shoot house, or live fire in the shoot house. And then the third day is scenario again, and we're using rubber bullets. So they're like 32 caliber rubber bullets. It's kind of like simunition or UTM ammunition. It's got a nice little sting, so there's no one that can say, oh, you didn't get me. You got. You're going to be surrendering really quickly. But there's also the treating the wounded part of it, because if this action takes place in a hallway or out on the playground or in the parking lot, you know, people are going to be injured. So even though you've taken out the shooter, and even though you've saved the day, so to speak, now it's time, where's my medical equipment? How far away is it? Can I use kids to go run to the nurse's office and bring the big red bag? How do you get a teacher? Can I have you two get 911? Can you put pressure here so I can work on this other patient that's in more critical condition? And now we're starting to see that we're stopping the bleed on 10, 12 people in less than a minute. So we can go back through and apply tourniquets and the other stuff. So I would say that hands down I had a ton of fun, and that's really what I do it for, is fun. Level 1's really awesome, level 2 is really awesome. But there's also an application here for church security, which again I've worked with for a long time throughout the valley. Many churches are relying on an all-volunteer program. Some of the bigger churches are fortunate enough to have active duty law enforcement who are willing to volunteer their time. Some of them have enough money that they can hire active duty law enforcement to show up in uniform and be in the parking lot. What this now brings to Arizona is a standardized unit of training that's already nationally recognized. It already has a 10-year clean history record throughout many, many states on the East Coast, and allows you to say all of our people are FAST.E.R trained. Okay? Is that where we stop training? Oh, I got my CCW. We're good. Oh, I got FAST.E.R certified. We're good. That's not where we stop it, right? We're always looking for that next nugget. Okay? And so this, I think, is an all-inclusive program that will help us get started on the right foot. You might look at it and say, hey, you know what? For our staff, here's the things I'm going to take away from this that I think we need to do more of. We need to do more live scenarios in our church or in our school. We need to incorporate an active shooter in our active shooter drills, okay, in our program in order for us to see what works and what doesn't work. Because you don't know until you run through the scenario and you see it fail. We've all been through fire drills, right? And we've all, you know, the alarm goes off now and it doesn't even bother us, right? I don't leave my stuff. We're walking the door too? Yeah, okay. You get your lunch, you get out there, but nobody ever switches it up and puts the fire in front of that door, forcing you to think, oh, where's the next closest exit? You'll find folks running upstairs trying to get out, downstairs to get out, down the long hallway, when there's another door closer, but they've never practiced that way, okay? And so that's what I think is really critical, a really critical part about this training is it's going to be very effective. And even if it's not in your school or your church, it's someone else's school or church, you can apply what you learn to it to your school. Many of the people that I trained alongside, the school staff, administrators, things like that, some of the extra steps that they took were doing a mental health check for the people that were interested in the program. So you have to go through the program, you have to pass the program, and then even after that, they still do a mental health check. The school has additional insurance, or the church, for instance, might have additional insurance for those individuals. And again, nobody knows. None of the teachers that go to that school, none of the people that are in the church staff are aware of who's carrying and why and what kind of training they have. It's all kept secret, which is really great. I want to speak more to that in a second.
Cheryl, we've met.
Yeah, right? Would agree to spark something I touched on, and I just drew a blank. The guys that I trained alongside, both with Apex Tactical and TDI, I've trained around the country with a lot of different trainers, and this is right on par with what I would expect with a nationally recognized program. I think they did a phenomenal job assembling this and putting it together. And the next thing I know a lot of people struggle with is finances, okay? And that's one of the great things. I've been a good friend of David Kopp for a number of years through AzCDL, and they kind of brought me onto the foundation years ago, and I'm like, well, what do you want me to do with, like, you're going to be the director of training. I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? So what do you want me to train people? And I was like, well, we're trying to get faster here. And I was like, well, I'm trying to get faster here. And he said, all right, let's go get faster. I was like, all right, let's go. I said,
faster.
Let's get faster. I was like, well, okay, now that we have faster here, all right, so how do we work this out? So up in Ohio, they have the Ohio Buckeye Firearms Association that does the same thing. They provide financial assistance to the people that would like to go through this program, okay? Now, of course, that's awesome because now you know, all right, I can afford to send people to this because it includes ammunition. If you need a hotel because you're coming from Tucson or Flagstaff, it includes that. Plus the actual class tuition, which now with ammo prices is going up, okay? But I would ask, just like everything else, that we be responsible with that. So if you're able to pay your own way, do your own tuition, awesome. Don't think of it as you're paying for yourself. Think of it as you're saving that seat or that money, or your money is going towards those other folks that are going to sign up for this program. But absolutely, our goal is to train as many people as possible so we have more folks who have gone through this, that can speak to it firsthand, get more people on board for it, so we can continue to do this. We've had some very generous donations. I would say that we're well funded for the next year and possibly into the following year, and we're working on securing even more funding. So that part of it I don't want you to worry about, okay? The next thing is Ohio is not Arizona. Would you guys agree? They've got mosquitoes the size of birds. I've been there a few times. I did not look forward to going there this summer, but I had to go so I could go through another level 1 training program, okay? I want to get as much time under the gun as possible. What I will tell you is observing their program, one of the requirements they have for you to go through FAST.E.R level 1 is that you already have your CCW, which that works great in Ohio because they have a 16-hour CCW program required by the state and a shooting qualification. Now, The problem with that here in Arizona is we no longer have that standard, okay? So right away, you might be missing out. If we just required that you have a CCW, you're gonna miss out on 16 hours of competent, qualified training. Does that make sense to everybody? Even with that standard in place in Ohio, they still have students show up to FA.S.T.E.R level 1 and have a lot of difficulty with some of the fundamentals, their grip, their sight picture, flinching and anticipating, all this sort of stuff, and working from the holster because they've never done it before. And so they came out with their 8-hour fundamentals class, which is basically, should be review for a lot of folks and help them get up to speed to get them trained well enough, because if we're going to invest this money in you to go through level 1, we want you to pass. It doesn't do us any good just to keep pushing you along and watch you fumble and fail just to lose one of those seats. Does that make sense to everybody? So what I've done is I've suggested to Ohio, they've agreed with us, they're willing to do it, is our foundations class will be 2 days long. It'll be that initial 16 hours where we'll do our 8 hours of law and legal, and then the second 8-hour day will be the fundamental firearms training that you really need. So that'll take somebody who's never held a gun before in their life, hopefully, and we've partnered with Shooters World out of Phoenix. They very generously donated their facilities, where they also have rental guns and things available there that will help us choose a firearm that fits you properly. And the other neat thing about a foundations class like this is it gives you an opportunity to work with the firearm that you shoot really well, and you get to work with your holster and learn that that works really well. So if you have any tools or equipment that are still kind of giving you struggles, you get a break before the actual level 1 class to go manage those things. And if you want to meet up with me and do like a quick call, or I have Clayton here, you can meet up with him and say, you know, check me out, make sure that I'm good for level 1. We absolutely want success for it. So now when you go through the 3 days, not saying it'll be a breeze by any means, but now you're going to have the greatest chance of success. Okay? So every seat that we fill, our entire goal is to make sure that you guys are successful. And then after you get through all of it, do with it what you can. If that means you can't carry at school, well, now you have the medical training. Okay? Look at Uvalde and the number of students that were laying there bleeding, and there's no one there to help them stop the bleed. You heard the phone call earlier where there's a student there and they're trying to use chest compressions for someone bleeding out. Okay? Let's pump it out faster. No, please stop that. Let's plug holes. All right? Then they wanted to use the AED. Okay? Nothing wrong with the dude's heart. I mean, the blood's still running, so the heart's still working. Okay? And the machine won't work unless the heart stops. But now all the blood pumps out. There's nothing for the AED to work on. Does that make sense to everybody? So you might show up to a parking lot, school bus accident, field trip. God only knows what else might happen. Okay? We've seen all sorts of weird, strange things going on. But if you have the medical training and you have that A-bag and now you know what to put in that A-bag, you can run out there with that A-bag and you can stop the bleed. And you say, well, I'm just one person. You grab 5 people and say, follow me. Here, put your finger in that hole. You, come with me. Put your knee on their leg right here and don't let anything run out, okay? You come over here, put pressure on their arm right here. Then you travel back. Tourniquet, 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 tourniquet. Everybody with me? Okay? And then you get to practice it for real, which means if their hand's not turning blue, then you didn't apply the pressure properly with the tourniquet. And these are the things that they look for. How was your time? You know, the first scenario, maybe it took you 5-10 minutes to solve a problem. Second, third, fourth, fifth scenario, and all of a sudden you're nailing these in 1 minute or less injuries, not nearly as many people you have to take care of. It is absolutely possible for everybody to learn how to do this stuff. Okay? And so we want to make it available. We have the funding, we have the program, and we hope to see all of you guys real soon. Any questions for me? We got all the gun people here.
Do you have that foundations class? Is that something that's necessary to take? Like, if you have some highlighter?
That's a great question. So, is it necessary? I think that having a really strong grasp of the law and legal part of it, because we're going to go deeper than CCW, because we're going to get into a little bit of the security guard stuff and some of the law and legal that's required for that, because I want to make sure that whether you're on campus or off campus, whether it's an event that you're hosting or whatever, I want to make sure that legally you understand what you can or can't do on your private property. The shooting part of it, could you probably ace out of it? Certainly. But then again, we're providing the ammo.
That's what we win.
And the other bonus part of that is it gives us an opportunity to evaluate you. Okay? How many people here thought they were really squared away for a class, showed up, and then had a bad day? Okay? I've been training for many, many years. I still take fundamental beginner classes. I went into this like a quiet little student and took all 3 days. There is absolutely nothing you want to miss out on this stuff. Okay? So, not saying that we will most certainly have a way for folks to pass out of the foundations class. I will be working with local other companies that already provide firearms training and let them know, hey, listen, this person wants to sign up for FAST level 1, I need you to sign off on it. And basically that instructor, that company is going to tell me that they've already gone through the 8 hours of law and legal, that they already have taken you through fundamental foundation stuff. And so remember, you'll be representing them when you show up to the class. And so if you're from level 1 on day 1, I'll be talking to them to make sure that they know, hey, what's going on here. Okay? But yes, we have good relationships with all the companies here in the state, and we'll be working alongside all of them to help us with the foundations so we can run more level 1s. Question?
Dave, I don't recall if it was you or Cheryl, but the statement was made that the standard of training is equal or more than our normal.
So that brings us to the shooting qualification. So in order to pass level 1, okay, in Ohio you have to pass the Ohio State OPATA drill using their target. It's pretty similar to the AZ post target, but it's only 28 rounds. The Arizona Police Officer Standardized Training Test right now is 50 rounds. And to be a normal work the streets law enforcement officer, you have to do 210 or higher. Some departments require a little bit higher score than that, but 210 is the base here in Arizona. To be an instructor for most agencies, you have to have 230 or higher, and 250 is the highest score possible. So we brought in a target for you guys. You can see this outer box right here as well as your head box. You'll be engaging this target from 3 yards all the way out to 25 yards. All of your rounds have to be all but 4, right? All but 4 have to be inside those circles. None of your rounds are allowed to hit white paper. Okay, we stress that a lot in class. White paper means that didn't hit your target and hit some little kid. Everybody with me? Yeah. So we're expecting to see 230 inside of this circle and that circle. And this is going to have one-handed drills right, one-handed drills left. There's going to be reloads, interchamber drill, etc. So
it's actually a higher standard than police officers.
That is a higher standard. 230 is a higher standard than your regular patrol officer out there patrolling the streets today. Okay? And I work with a lot of law enforcement. I can speak firsthand to that.
And it's not bad on them.
No,
It's a pro about how good the program is.
Absolutely. And the reason for this, once again, is because we don't want to train you to the base level of training. Okay? Because you fall down to your lowest level of training. When you're under stress and all of a sudden, holy cow, this is for real, you still get to make a decision that day of whether or not you want to lock down your room or you want to exit and go save lives. This decision still remains in your hands, but if you exit outside that door, I want you to have the confidence to know that you're ready for it. Okay? I don't want you to go out there and not have that confidence, because that's important. Any other questions? Okay, I'll turn it back over to Cheryl.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
Super
you.
nicely done. And I mentioned I took level 1 and level 2, and they don't certify everybody. Ask me how I know.
They didn't certify you the first time.
Ask me how I know. I missed the firearms qualification by 2 points, and they weren't white paper, they were just outside of the circle that they were supposed to be in. But that actually, you know, if there was anybody that they might kind of go, just rubber stamp her. She's not a teacher. You know what I mean? She's going to talk to us about it, talk about us on her podcast. She's a personal friend. She's trying to bring this to Arizona. Just, you know, give her the rubber stamp. If there was anybody they were going to do that with, it was me. And they said, we feel bad for you, but no. And I said, thank you. That took my respect for the trainers, for the program, and just notched it infinitely up. This is not a wink and a nod. This is serious, hardcore training because we are saving lives. That's what we're doing. So, again, I did mention that because Arizona, because of the AzCDL, the Arizona Citizens Defense League, David Laird mentioned Dave Kopp. He's one of our co-founders the work they've done in our state over the past 20-ish years, 18 years, has helped Arizona be one of the freest states still today, especially as our Second Amendment, our right to keep and bear arms, are concerned. And because of the work that they've put in, now the foundation is the C3 arm, the education arm that's bringing F.A.S.T.E.R here. We have that freedom among ourselves. Our teachers have that freedom. We want to keep that freedom, right? And as soon as some people, who shall remain nameless, right, who don't like our freedom, don't like guns, hear about the work that we're doing, they're going to start trying to throw up some roadblocks. But I'm going to have Michael come up and talk about where we are now, what could be in the future landscape, as far as our legislative end of all of this. And I'm going to do these.
No, you're good. The Facebook Live ended.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
So we got the other mic. We're good.
Dave told you a little bit about himself. 82nd Airborne. I was a crayon eater in the Marine Corps, so I spent 2 enlistments in the Marine Corps infantry. This training is no slouch by any means. I'm afraid to even try it because I don't want to be embarrassed that bad. So I'll argue at the legislature and the city levels and the school districts for everybody here. There are 20 states in our country that allow anybody with permission from school authorities to carry on campus. Arizona being one of them. A few states concealed carry license holders only. School employees, there's a couple. School security, there's a few. In New Hampshire, only students are prohibited. Only 45 states allow law enforcement to carry on campus. It's part of the defund the police. We need more mental health counselors, not school resource officers, things like that. One of the good things about Arizona, and like Cheryl mentioned, AzCDL has been around for 18 plus years. For the last 12, Arizona's been ranked either number 1 or number 2 in the freest state in the country as far as our Second Amendment. Okay, our state constitution is actually, in my opinion, better than the Second Amendment because it says that if any citizen has a right to defend themselves, can bear arms to defend themselves. So it actually spells it out. There's a few things that we're going to try to get through legislation. Kind of go the soft route, path of least resistance, and talk to the school districts and see if they'll open up that way. But we're also going to try to get some legislation passed to highly encourage the schools, basically twist their arm and tell them you need to do this, by allowing F.A.S.T.E.R training. Florida has, after Stoneman, the shooting at Stoneman, they implemented something sort of like F.A.S.T.E.R, but a lot of training. Over 300 hours before a teacher can carry on campus. That's a lot of training. Ohio's governor just signed their school safety bill. It's 28 hours of training, and then or initial training, and then 8 hours to keep your yearly certification up. Still in talks with Dave Kopp and the AzCDL board to see what kind of bill we're going to try to get, and then see if we can find a sponsor. And we have a lot of legislators that are chomping at the bit to help us out with this. So we're in a good place. We've been in a good place for a long time as far as legislation goes. There's a lot of things that we still need to get done and pushed across the finish line, but we'll get there eventually. Great program. We can get this. This needs to be done in all 50 states, plain and simple. And give the teachers the opportunities to protect their kids. My cousin Anne Marie Murphy was killed at Sandy Hook. So I've had friends that have been shot. Growing up in Miami in the 80s, through time in the Marine Corps, to family members, we need to be able to defend ourselves. And those teachers put themselves on the line, so they need to be able to defend themselves and our kids. And I just had my daughter just had her first child, so I'm a grandparent for the first time. But something needs to happen. Is there any questions that I can answer for you? So let me ask you, are you registered to vote?
Yes.
Is there anybody not registered to vote? Good. Plain and simple. So, if you ever have any questions, you can contact David or Cheryl, or go through AzCDL's website and ask a question and forward it on to the legislative team. Yes, ma'am.
We do have a question. What would be our call to action if we want this, if we like this? Is it a do we call our governor, write our legislator? What's our call to action to get this really moving forward?
Absolutely fantastic question. Did y'all hear that? What's your call to action?
I'm a shill, but anyway.
No, it's all right. It's all right. Do any of you have kids still in school or grandkids in school? Okay. Call the school. Talk to the principal. Talk to the school district. That's step number one. Path of least resistance. Have the school district say, hey, you know what? This is a good program. Even if it's level 1. Even if it's that, at least the foot's in the door. That, camel's nose under the tent type thing. We're needed to get it implemented in every school district in our state, so we can show the districts, even the extreme left districts that we have, show them that, hey, this is good training. And then let the teachers decide for themselves what kind of training or how far in training that they need to go or would like to go.
So is it a question we're asking them, or is it a statement we are stating to them?
Grab a bunch of them and hand it to them directly. Say, check this out. If you have questions, call me. I'll put you in contact with the people who can answer the questions. And that'll be Mark.
I'd be willing to, like I said, travel to the school districts, wherever they are in the state, and talk to administrators and or school board members. Yes.
Are you in Washington District?
Am
Have
I
you
in
contacted
Washington?
anybody in Washington District?
No.
Okay, because I know somebody who works.
Okay. I'll give you my question.
What's the role of the all these candidates that are running for the Board of Education right now? Are they any help for you guys?
Which ones are you talking about specifically?
Something you want and they do something? Because by law, I don't think that she can force the school.
No.
You can't.
And we're not really interested in trying to force anybody to do anything, but if we have more people speaking to it, speaking for it, who've gone through it, really going through it is what convinces you that, okay, yeah, I totally get it now. Because us speaking about it isn't nearly the same thing as you living, breathing, experiencing those live scenarios that you get through successfully. And so if they're able to go and see that ordinary teachers and principals and janitors and nurses and stuff are stepping up and doing
She's
it.
a former Israeli. She's been in the military.
So she knows exactly.
She'll take you on that for sure.
So then she already knows.
She'll go there.
She already knows what it is that we're talking about. I'm sure she'd be all for it. And if we can get, there may be schools that are interested in doing it, but they may have to have school board approval for those schools to authorize it. And that's what's really important. I've been doing this already for a lot of churches and private schools, because private schools, private property. And we have some people who are running for office this year that are working on school choice. And something I think every school in the state needs to be thinking about right now is you have an armed campus, you have an unarmed campus. But as a parent, not only do I get to choose, but that funding goes with me. We're going to see a lot of schools potentially lose funding and close down because people are going to choose the option that works best for them. We've already got financial assistance for school resource officers, and they are great and fantastic. But I've talked to a lot of my buddies in law enforcement. They said, look, there's not enough of us. Okay, there's not enough of us to respond in a timely manner. Not that it happens as quickly as somebody already being there handling it. I've worked with law enforcement in conjunction with churches. We've allowed SWAT teams to come in and train at our church because I want them to know it like the back of their hand. Okay? And I want them to know my armed staff like the back of their hand. So they recognize us when they show up. I want them to have a safe place to come in and drink coffee for free and write the reports and all that sort of stuff. I want that kind of relationship with my local community law enforcement. And those are just some things, but on top of that, even they'll tell you, here in the valley you have a 7 to 14 minute response time, okay, for the first officer. And now sure, he'll run in there, but he doesn't know what he's running into. His information is only as reliable as what the staff told the 911, who then reiterated back to them and their dispatch computer. Sometimes they might get there real fast, 1 minute, but no info. Okay? And so now he's running in and he's talking to somebody who's frantic and screaming and yelling and bleeding and everything else, trying to get info to go assess the threat. But if this happens right here, right now, you know the layout of the school. You know which teachers are who. You know who doesn't belong there. Okay? And so and here's the thing that I don't talk about, because I don't talk about what I foresee happening. Because back when I started doing church security, when I returned from Iraq in 2008, man, what kind of church do you go to? You got to have armed staff on church. How many of you think it sounds insane now to have armed staff in church? Not at all. You're like, hey, you're not crazy. No, we're not. Because violent crime on church campus has gone up 900% over the last few years. Okay, there's burglaries, there's
Domestics.
domestic is a huge one. And look at this. We had a huge COVID thing. We lost a lot of businesses. We've got a lot of domestic stuff going on. And now we're entering into a recession. So we're going to see a lot more domestic violence stuff. Kids have been out of school for the last 2 years. Now suddenly they're returning. Cheryl, what did I tell you when we went back to school? We're going to see school shootings go back up again. Not just because now there's more kids going to school, but they haven't learned how to socialize in the last 2 years. Suddenly you throw them into a mixing pot, and what you got away with in social media, kids aren't going to stand for in the classroom. The bullying and all that sort of stuff. You can't just turn your computer off anymore. Still, it's there, it's live action. And you know what I'm going to do? Well, I'm going to take care of this. So I have a lot of thoughts and opinions about this that I won't say out loud. But honestly, a determined person that really wants to cause harm is going to start thinking outside the box. Okay? And there's a lot of things still that are not being done that should be getting done. This is the fastest, most effective thing. To just get away the easy targets. Slim pickings. Make them have to make harder choices. Do I want to drive 2 hours north to get to the next school that doesn't have armed response training? Okay?
We are coming right up about 7 o'clock, and I know you had a reply.
Yeah, just to let you know, I haven't talked to her. We have sat down with gubernatorial candidates and asked some really tough questions and laid this out and asked, hey, if this came across your desk, would you sign it into law? And, you know, we'll put it out. As soon as we get all the answers, we'll put it out on who responded, how they responded, and who refuses to meet. All the way down the line. We have,
What do you put that out on?
it'll be on through AzCDL and the AzCDL Foundation. So.
Can you do that on AzCDL?
Yeah, asking questions. It's like a survey.
Okay.
So.
Do we have this implemented in churches and schools right now in Arizona?
We have one Christian school that we put through this training in February. And they're a charter private school in the central Phoenix area. So yes, it's already been implemented. There's nothing in this program that I haven't already done with other churches. So there's a lot of churches that have a similar program, but they all vary with like what they're offering and what they're able to do. I think this is better because it'll give you something consistent across the board, even if you aren't using all of the components of it. And I think more churches will probably be like, you know what, we should be doing more of that other stuff. And so it'll be more convincing to go through it and be like, you know what, we never even thought about this, that, and that. So we need to start doing that stuff.
ARS 15-341 allows the schools to make the choice. So the schools can make a choice. Like I said, if you have kids in school and you know the administration, you know your superintendent of the district, talk to them, invite them. My kids went to Paradise Valley School District. I invited the superintendent for PV schools to go through the training. Hey, just before you even think about it, why don't you go through? You know, check it out for yourself.
One more time, I saw a couple people trying to write down that revised statute number.
Oh, 15-341.
ARS.
ARS 15-341.
I just wanted to emphasize that. If a school board, a public school decides they want to have this policy, it will happen in that school. That's the way like you say, that's the easiest way to get it done. And that's where you guys come in. And just like I said, I'm willing to come and help you do that personally.
That's where your call, that's your call to action. We'll still fight at the Capitol, and we'll still be fighting on the school board level, but this is something you can do in your neighborhood.
A good audience for that will be the churches and, stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Because there you have kids in schools.
Yeah,
They want certain things, so
talk to your churches.
it'll be,
Even if it's a small church, I mean, they all.
edit that one, but I can't do anything with churches. I'm Jewish, so all the Jews.
Synagogue.
They don't want to do anything with security. It's never going to happen.
You'd be very surprised.
I have the only security group in the only place in the state.
Yeah.
For the synagogue?
That's it.
Okay, and I know where yours is.
That's the one we're gonna go.
I know where